Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to again, I've been saying a lot, a new theory channel thing that I'm going to be reacting to. Edna Mode created the supers. So, this is made by the Theorizer, which, if you've never heard of them before, oh god, I don't know how to really describe them. I've been actually subscribed to the Theorizer for a while. Like years at this point, but I haven't actually watched anything from them in a long time because I kind of fell off the boat and I kind of got burnt out because, well, the thing is, to put it simply, I know that, with like game theory and stuff like that, the theories can, sometimes come off as a little outlandish or a little strange, but yeah, the Theorizer, I always thought of them as basically being that cranked up to 12, going at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Thinking back, I discovered them like by watching theories and lore stuff about Coraline back in the day. But after a little while, I got burnt out and I stopped watching them at some point, I can't remember when, and then the next thing I know, there was an hour-long compilation of Mort theories that was over an hour and a half long. And to say that kind of scared me off would be, a bit of an understatement. But recently, somebody asked me to do reaction to the whole, Mort theory stuff. And that kind of reminded me that, hey, the Theorizer actually exists. And that it would probably be, a good idea to stop back in and see how they're doing. I wasn't even sure that the Theorizer was still posting stuff. And then, literally a couple of days ago, I saw this in my subscription feed, and hey, what a better time to pick them back up again. So yeah, End of Mode. I mean, what can you say about The Incredibles? Great movie, followed by a less than adequate sequel. I mean, that describes almost every movie, but, I mean, created the super... I mean, like, I know from the little that we do know of her, she was, like, one of, if not the only person that made supers costumes. So, I mean, I could very easily see that whole thing where... what better way to make a supply than to also create the demand for it as well? Because as we see in the first movie, like, obviously, like, she's still working as, like, a fashion designer, but she is not, like, anywhere fulfilled making fashion for, like, models and runways and stuff like that. I remember quite clear, and I still love this line, the way that, the line was read. She used to make things for gods. And yeah, wait, wasn't she... Oh god, what was his name? I know she's voiced by the movie's director. Oh god, what's his name? Brad Bird, that was it. Yeah, that's him. And like, it was a whole thing where like, he was originally doing just the temp voice for her over like storyboards, and everybody loved it so much that they just kept him doing the voice. And quite frankly, that is the perfect voice for Edna. Absolutely love it. So, of course, as always, the original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And if you have any suggestions for future stuff for me to react to, you can of course leave it in the comment section below, or head over to my Discord, link also in the description, and leave it in there in the designated channel. And yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing actually started then, shall we?
Edna Mode is the real MVP of The Incredibles.
Wow, okay, that's different. Sorry, I mean, the last time I watched anything from the Theorizer was, I think it probably at least 4 or something years ago. So obviously, I mean, people go through change, but man, Theorizer, your voice is a lot lower than I remember you being.
She's a legendary fashion designer, a brilliant scientist, and a mad genius in disguise, all while being hilarious. But who is she really?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I've got our answer. It makes so much sense. And
Does
I
it?
promise
Does it really?
afterwards you'll agree with me.
Oh, I remember these. I remember seeing these types of intros. Oh, wow.
Hello, I'm the theorizer, and Edna is a little suspicious when it comes down to it. She doesn't have many scenes to go off of, but there's stuff between the lines. In the first movie, we see her at the wedding flashback, and in the present, Bob goes to her modern mansion to get a patch job on his supersuit. She immediately tries making him a whole new one with tracking capabilities and a better fit. She strongly advises against wearing capes, and explains how tons of supers died, all because of, let's face it, her designs. When Helen finds out about the patch job, Edna tries inviting her over and reveals that she's created matching suits for the entire Incredible family down in her mad science lab. Ultimately, this spurs them all to fight the fight together and stop Syndrome from killing more superheroes.
Yeah.
She's also there for the Parr family in the sequel, where she studies Jack and learns of his many powers. She explains how super babies work, and then calculates dimensions and transcends material science to create technology capable of containing him. She's like Q from James Bond, the gadget maker for the spies. She knows a lot more. She's a futurist, but she's also fantastic, and frankly a legend. But we don't know much about her from what little we see. She's rich.
I mean, you know what? When you put it all out on a plate like that, yeah, it is kind of suspicious how she's everywhere. Though granted, I mean, it would seem that just from, like, what we saw later in the movie, at least in Incredibles 1, that the supers community was, you know, a very small and tight-knit one. I mean, of everybody at the wedding apart from Edna is in some sort of super costume at the very least. So it kind of makes sense that she would be there since they most likely all knew her, and if she, you know, they seem to be, like, at the very least, like, not best friends, but obviously like work colleagues almost. They were at that sort of level. So I mean, it's the whole thing where it's like, hey, there's not that many people. Do you want to come to my wedding? But I mean, also that whole thing about her knowing more than she lets on. I mean, of course, she designs all the super costumes, and I love this. I mean, say what you will about the second movie, it was not that good, but I love the bit where Helen's, is it Ellen or Helen? Yeah, it's Helen, never mind, sorry. I love the thing you can notice is that throughout the movie, Helen's costume that she gets when she starts doing super heroics again is the one that gets damaged, while all the costumes that Edna made were more impervious to damage and stuff like that. I love that little thing, because it just goes to show that she actually knows what she's doing.
Intelligent, fashionable, and visionary, but seems to have closer ties to the supers than anyone can imagine. Who is she really? How does she play into the whole superhero relocation program that everyone's a part of? She's more important here than almost anyone, but how so? And clearly she's mastered more than just fashion. Her true passion is powers and understanding them. Just take a look at her secret laboratory. She describes the supers as gods, truly super models for her designs. How does she have all this technology? Well, I think she's been in charge of something massive. She's not just the fashion girl, the gadget girl. She's the head honcho, in some sense. You might see where I'm going with this. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know of my extremely lengthy history with the Incredibles. My first real theories on it were my Syndrome videos, where I tried figuring out whether or not Syndrome could actually be a superhero. Conclusion: yeah, in fact, his entire base was his parents and Gazerbeam's base before he learned the truth about them and offed them one by one, starting his descent into villainy, with Mirage possibly
I think I remember seeing those.
Using his super intelligence.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing those.
I covered the second movie and made a video discussing just how much Winston knew about his sister's plans before dropping the biggest bombshell of them all, solving the entire conspiracy of the government agency, Rick Dicker, who killed the Devers' parents, all of it, seamlessly. You see, all of this comes down to this pesky agency there behind it. This also did end up tying together with a few other PIXAR theories I made, culminating in the best theory video I've ever posted, bar none, simply entitled The Baby Smitty Theory, but that's
literally over here on the on the right of the video, and I had no idea what to think of this when I first saw it. So and we'll have to see.
For later. You see, through all of these, I had been talking and revising my ideas and working on how things could tie into Edna without ever coming to a solid conclusion, but I understood this much. she knows a lot more than she lets on. For ages, I've endorsed the theory that she created Syndrome's suit and knowingly did so with a cape, so he'd be doomed to die. And I also now believe that yes, she created the family suits to motivate them all into action and gave Bob a tracker because she knew what was coming. Her smug, all-knowing face and attitude gives it away. She knows so much more about the agency and has a deep, deep connection with the government and supers as a whole. They always go to her for help. She's a mad scientist. She's connected to the agency, which Syndrome is a part of, all of course linking back to the Smitty stuff, but she's not evil. She's something much wilder. She has the technology, she has the fashion, she has the sass, but it comes from a place of love and regret for the flawed designs that have killed so many. I've realized that Edna's past becomes rather obvious once you consider a simple fact. The Incredibles takes place in a little bit of a heightened version of the 1950s.
Oh, no, yeah, of course. I mean, you just have to look at how everything is designed. I mean, one, the cars, but also, I mean, if you look at their house in the first movie, the doorknob was in the middle of the door. I've never seen, like, another decade that had a design, such weird design principles like that. The 50s and later the 60s, sort of, were very, like, experimental. It was that whole age of, like automation and like experimentation and like with the money and peace that had been brought after the Second World Wars, people went weird.
More technological, a bit more futuristic, and we know full well why from my older videos, but the point is that supers are all of a very
might have to look up that video.
time period, the age of comics. The patriotic heroes that saved the day, the magical figures that break the mold and defeat the evils of the World War II. I am almost entirely certain that in real life, superhero comics were substantially respondent to the Great Depression, and more notably the war effort, as seen with Captain America and many others. And I believe this bleeds over into the entire point and mythos of The Incredibles, giving us every single answer. If you align it, it goes something like this. To try and defeat the Germans during World War II, the American government of The Incredibles started a program to heighten human physiology and defeat the enemy. Superheroes were made, augmented humans, as a direct advancement to the war effort in the 1940s alongside bombs, planes, submarines, and modern technology. The US government famously recruited German resistance members during this period, such as Albert Einstein, I believe, Operation Paperclip they called it.
Yeah.
It's well known just how advanced the Germans sought to be, infamously scouring the earth looking for all sorts of weaponry to fund their grandiose plans for world domination. Their doctors and scientists were frighteningly unethical, of course, and ran human experiments out the wazoo.
Oh, yeah.
I bring this up because all of this is the same thing. The National Supers Agency is the US government's attempt to assimilate scientists from the German, Japanese, Italian axis with their own test subjects to create truly advanced superhumans out of public volunteers. And this is all important today because in the interviews with Brad Bird, director of The Incredibles, he explains how difficult it was to cast Edna Mode. He was going for a very specific accent blend, so much so that he actually couldn't find anyone else to successfully voice Edna. So he quite amazingly did it himself, giving us the character we have today.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, originally he was just supposed to be the scratch voice, but people loved it so much, and it was the only one that they could find, anywhere similar. It was the only one that seemed right.
What was this accent? What was he going for? Well, to create this perfect gadget gal, he explained that he drew directly from the two smallest countries with the two most slick and advanced technologies and designs. Ladies and gentlemen, Germany and Japan. This is explicitly displayed in every way by her design, and he chose, in the 1940s, to go for two specific countries that are technologically advanced out of the dozens to choose from. 2/3 of the Axis powers? People of the viewership, Edna Mode is a recruited World War II mad scientist. The fact that I can say this and have it make sense without even needing A colossal amount of evidence should tell you a lot. But in the event that you need a bunch, consult my baby Smitty theory, because dear God, this makes Edna central to everything, and her life story, if it clicks, would play out something like this. Edna.
God. I mean, granted, this is seemingly a lot more grounded than the theories back in the day, but the potential that Edna Mode is a former Axis scientist that made superheroes. I mean, granted, the whole thesis of this was that Edna made the supers, but that's weird.
Mode. A young woman of German and Japanese descent is Germany's most valuable tool during their economic depression in the 1930s. Being at the highest levels of government and helping with their fashion and technology, she sees the signs. Things are headed for disaster. She explains when we first meet her that she often travels to Milan, Italy, working with their supermodels who only care for themselves. Her Axis ties just don't stop! Her heritage is Japanese. She knows what's going on in the Pacific. Living in Germany, she detects the first signs of incoming disaster and takes her intelligence and gets the hell out right before the country goes to shit.
Well, yeah, granted, she is smart, but you also have to realize that if this theory is actually true, her being mixed race, that would have definitely been a big no-no in Nazi Germany. Especially. I don't know how it would have worked. Well, I don't know how it would have gone in, like, Italy or, say, Japan. I know Italy was a bit more lenient when it came to the whole race thing of fascism than Germany was. Japan, I have absolutely no idea. It could have literally been that she saw the government start saying, oh, hey, you're not German enough, get out of here. And she, being the smart woman that she's depicted as, figured out, hey, I may be valuable, but I think that only buys me time. You never know.
She flees to America and aids them with their poverty by providing technology to those in need. This genius woman would be the very first when it comes to BNL,
by and large,
AI company that runs everything in the US government in later films. She is given tools and money
again,
to
the whole
real
PIXAR
progress,
theory,
creating heroes in the times of poverty, and most importantly, to aid in the coming war. In 1937, she creates the first superheroes, and hypothetically, these would be the two to give birth to a child, Buddy Pine, Syndrome himself. If my other theories are to be believed, he has super intelligence, rivaling the likes of Edna herself, but he's stunted by nature of being the very first born into it and has issues. Many more supers are now granted powers, courtesy of her knowledge of nuclear mutation, and later, the monster genome from Beyond the Veil, if you know what I'm referring to. Now, into the 1940s, Edna is viciously against her former home of Germany, and they are attempting to conquer the world. They are even using some of her old technology to do it as they seek out the supernatural and the remarkable. When they ally with her heritage of Japan and her associates of Italy, she has reached the breaking point and advises that they siphon over her associates in Operation Paperclip. In this heightened world of the Incredibles, Edna and her team would hypothetically be the ones using this knowledge of nuclear physics to create the atom bomb, a counter-agent to the fires of war and the evils of mass cremation. We see her lust and her drive even later during her demonstrations when she has miniature nukes.
Yeah.
The Incredibles takes place in 1962, meaning the glory days take place in 1947, 2 years after they drop the nuclear bomb to end the Pacific War. Syndrome, the resultant fallout from Edna's experiments, begins to lose his cool, and as ever, Edna sees it coming. As more and more of her associates die by the capes, and this killer in plain sight, Edna blends the two dilemmas and provides Syndrome with the instruments of his own destruction: artificial intelligence and the cape. Edna knows everything about the supers in these films. She explains how they grow, how they gain and lose powers, how they are as babies. She is the one. She is the mother of supers. That is her role. That is who she is. She knows everything. Mother of BNL spiraling out of control when she leaves her agency to the world powers. And ironically, this would make BNL and Disney the Germans' conquest. Founder of the supers, the Mad Doctor herself, It's fantastic. This flies directly into my baby Smitty theory again, which of course needs a follow-up and is gonna have one now. And recently I've also seen some posts from people who have now also seen the German-Japanese connection and immediately think she's evil, but no, dear people, she's the hero we all deserve. I'll cover this more in my next Pixar theory, but for now, make sure to subscribe and join my Patreon for early uploads and shoutouts in Discord, which is where I spend a great deal of my time.
Oh geez, yeah, this theory brings me back to the old days when I used to watch Theorizer. Like, absolutely out there, but yeah, that could make a lot of sense. I mean, like, half German, half Japanese. Yeah, but being the mother of supers, potentially being the mother of supers, I mean, I got nothing really to add to that. That's just, that could be cool. Though, granted, I mean, I have my issues about the whole, like, PIXAR theory thing. I got tired of it years ago, and if I ever do like an actual theory to like a PIXAR video, I might go into it deeper, but just to know, I'm very tired when it comes to the unified PIXAR theory sort of shenanigans. So yeah, of course, with all that out of the way, our original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Mort is a weakling, wimpy limp and freaking shit. How dare he do what he has done? I'll relay his crimes in a format as synonymous, for I am anonymous and mimic Mort the Ominous. Now, he's out of his mind, but the other Morts are not. His genetic code is shot like the grandmother he fought, buried her in a well, and goddamn it.